wrong. And we're going to finish with this today then. So we left on the trace, remember? We're still admitting people. So we were talking about produce packaging and the characteristics of produce packaging. Let's see if you remember. It's got to be sturdy, resistant. When you put one on top of the other, do you remember how that is called? Anybody? Stackable. And it has to allow ventilation. If you notice, most of the boxes, they allow ventilation. They're not totally closed. So these are the trays in general, and they may be in 3 types of material: plastic, cardboard, or wood. Okay, and there is another type of material also that is used, but we're going to see it later, for fish. These are customized, still admitting people. These are customized trays. Customized, this is for the primary packaging. And remember that these have to go inside boxes. When the merchandise, such as lettuce, for example, that they expand, if they are not going in bulk packaging, they are going here already in customized trays or clamps. When these are all closed, these are clamps. Then you can use bliss boxes. Remember that we identify telescopic boxes, the ones that expand, that in the case of letters, when the letters are loose, they expand. But if they are going in clams, such as these are clams, they don't need telescopic boxes, they need bliss boxes. So there you have different, these are trays, clams. Okay. Bulk packaging, I already told you last class. What is bulk? When the merchandise is not individually packaged, and they're usually using liners. So plastic liners or cardboard liners. I'm still admitting. There you go. And the plastic wrapping, this, we're all familiar with this because this we see in the supermarket everywhere, right? Here we have cabbage. They're individually packaged. So if they are going to be individually packaged, you don't need telescopic boxes. You need bliss boxes. And this is the typical thing. Let me see if I skip something here. Cans, bins, drums, and lugs. Okay. Remember that cans, depending if it is British English, is going to be tins, T-I-N-S, tins or cans if it's Americans. Bins, these are made of cardboard or plastic, okay? And then we have the drums. Drums are always metal. And the lugs. Lugs are always wooden blocks. So when we talk about the shipping documents, we need phytosanitary certificate for the packaging. The sacks. We have different types of sacks. These are the most expensive ones, but these are reusable, right? And they are environment friendly because of that, because they are reusable. And we can use them depending on the woven. If the woven is loose, we can use it for big stuff, such as potatoes or pineapples and so on, big stuff. If the woven is very tight, very close, we can use it for smaller stuff. However, they are never used for powdery type of merchandise. And when I say powdery, I'm referring to sugar, flour, and that sort of things. They're not used for those. They're very light, so they don't add up weight to the merchandise because of their characteristics, and you don't need to present phytosanitary certificate for this type of sacks. I'm still admitting. Okay, then we have the jute sacks. Jute sacks are organic, And this, even though they're very cheap, and you can use it for powdery or seeds or even big type of merchandise such as potatoes, they are not recommended for long trips, because when they get humid and they are exposed to humidity, they tend to harbor insects. And therefore you need phytosanitary certificates for the sacks. Maybe you would need it for your merchandise, depending on what type of merchandise it is, and you need it for the sacks. So they're cheap, but you usually may consider this because it's for a low budget if you're going to be sending merchandise to the neighboring countries, that they're not going to be exposed for so many days in the trip. Cotton sacks, these type of material, even though it is organic, they don't harbor insects like the jute, because they have a different type of process, and these are usually used for powdery type of merchandise or a small type of merchandise such as beans or lentils or even rice, sugar, of course. And we have packaging for flowers. These are the different types of packagings for flowers. So we have bulk or we have individual packaging. So let's see them individually. When the flowers are going in soil, right, they can be, in this case, there's an export of plants, right? They can go in boxes, in soils, in plastic wrapping, or they can go in jute. Now, obviously, they have soil inside. It's not the same as if you were using jute sacks with fruits or vegetables. In this case, it's a direct contact with the soil, even though you have to use phytosanitary certificate. These are the typical boxes for flowers. Huh? These are the type of boxes that go by plane. Um, plants may be sent through vessel if they're going with soils. The type of flowers that are cut, such as these, they can never go by vessel. They always go by airplane or truck, depending on the distances. The individual packagings are called sleeves. The sleeves have different designs, and this is also part of the deal, because in the deal, the importer, if he wants flowers for St. Valentine's Day or Mother's Day, which is a big seller, right? They usually want them ready to take them out of the boxes and put them on the display. So this type of packaging is more expensive because they are custom made with different designs and all that. That involves extra money. Here you have a pallet. This is ready to go to the airplane and is already wrapped in plastic. And flowers go in there. Look at this type of packaging, guys. Look at the money involved here. Where do you think this is going?
Japan.
Definitely, yes. Look at the difference on this one. This is a very cheap packaging. This is very cheap packaging. And look at this one. One is individually grabbed. So that's what I told you before, when you're talking about when you're dealing and you have to meet the requirements of the importer. In the case of the Japanese, they invest a lot of money in packaging because they invest on the presence of the product. And what they don't usually like is that they have to package. They want things ready. So they put additional money on that. So it depends on who you're making business with, is obviously how much money you're going to have to put in packaging. And that is part of the cost also. Look at this one. Incredible. Okay, let's go. With fishing packaging, here we're going to repeat several things. These are vacuum sealed and trays, customized trays. So we repeat much of what we have already said. What we have here is styrofoam, that's the word, styrofoam, that is usually used because of the ice. Now, again, this depends on the budget, how much money you are devoting for the packaging. If there is not much money, you're going to be using simple bliss boxes which are waxed also because of the ice and the humidity. So the wax avoids the bulging of the cardboard. So if more money is invested, you put the styrofoam inside a bliss box. There's some more pictures. Bliss boxes, always bliss boxes and we repeat it. There's nothing unusual here that we have not seen. This is bulk packaging, right? This is bulk packaging also, but this is covered with ice. This doesn't have ice, it's just simply going through reefer container. And this one too, these are cheap packaging. This, except for the styrofoam boxes, the styrofoam is more expensive than a regular cardboard box. Woven plastic, as you can see, we use it for everything. And we use it for seafood also. Cheap packaging, simply liners. What is commonly used is the ice baths. In the bottom of these boxes, you put the ice box. These isolated bins, these are used when you're sending live animals, right? So this go by plane, and this is filled with water because you can't send those animals dry. So if you're going to be sending octopus, live octopus, for example, or live abalones, you're going to send them here. So they're not packaged. You got seawater here and you got them sealed. So the water doesn't jump all over. And obviously remember that this is going for trips by airplane. So they are not going to stay there for over 24 hours. There's another description, ice packs again, a bin, right? They look like refrigerator boxes. This is an ice bin, and these are also trays. These trays, as I showed you before, are also plastic, disassemblable, and you can use them with trays and ice. If you notice on this particular box, they're using hay. And remember that hay means paja, and that is very cheap packaging. Seaweed packaging, you have these two modalities where you have them just with a band or vacuum sealed. Okay, people prefer vacuum seal because of the smell, even though these are dry, but they smell anyway. So in bliss boxes also, this is the primary packaging, and then it goes to bliss boxes. Let's talk about the meat. We repeat the same, vacuum sealed, right? Plastic containers or plastic bags and trays. Hay, again, hay, the word hay, very cheap, very expensive, but now we're not talking about produce or meat or any of those things, but all the types of other items that they don't need ventilation and so on. The bubble wrapping is more expensive, of course. So if the budget is good, you have enough money for packaging, and depending on the deal, you're going to use this. If the money is not good, then you're going to use shredded paper or simply hay. Let's go to this. Don't get thirsty. Beer packaging. Now we have to refer to the liquids. And I have chosen beer because beer is very particular, especially because beer has microorganisms. And we have to consider the temperature range when we talk about elements with microorganisms or organics. The favorable temperature for beer is anywhere between 3 and 8 degrees Celsius. So they gotta be cold, not frozen, but cold. Not frozen because it disappears the flavor and the color. And when the temperature is above the 8 degrees, it happens the same thing. It changes color and it changes the taste. Okay, here we have canned beer, advantages and disadvantages. It has the longest shelf life. That means that you can keep them there for months, right? It may take metallic taste, and the container corrodes. And when the container corrodes, air goes inside the beer and disperses the flavor and the color. Okay, so on the next one, this one, it has to be consumed within 3 months. Remember, this one has the longer. So when we say the longer, is up to 6 months. However, not many people apply that time for beer. This is up to 3 months. What's the disadvantage of this one is that the caps corrode because the caps are metallic and they corrode. And if air goes in, if oxygen goes in, this spares color and flavor. And because these bottles are always glass, there's a risk of breaking or any of the bottles breaking and contaminates the rest of the packaging. And the draft beer, the beer that you like so much. Look at the lifespan of this beer. It's 1 month. So this beer, draft beer, always comes in bulk. So they're not individually grabbed, they come in bulk in other type of packaging. But this has to be consumed within 1 month from the time it is brewed. So if you consider bringing draft beer from Germany, for example, and the trip takes between 20 and 25 days, you only have 5 days to drink it. Okay, this is bulk packaging for beer. We have the barrels, and barrels are made of wood. What document do you need for that?
Phytosanitary.
You need phytosanitary certificate, not for the beer, but for the barrel. So when you're thinking on the type of packaging, you also have to consider what documents or what particular documents you're going to need for the packaging. And then we have the kegs. Kegs are made of aluminum, so they tend to dent. Dent means abollarse. They tend to dent, but they're more expensive. But this keeps the beer in good condition, especially when it refers to temperature. Grease boxes for beers when they come in bottles or in cans. And again, we repeat the plastic crates, dividers, and the lugs. When are we going to use lugs for beer? It's when the beer is too expensive. The way we have expensive wine, we also have expensive beer, depending on the quality and so on. What are the markings we need to use for beer and for any type of alcohol or liquids? Fragile, upright, and keep right. Fragile, right? Because even though if they are cans, they dent, they distort. Upright, because if you put it sideways and somebody or something is put on top of it, the bottles may break and the cans dent. And keep dry because of the corrosion. And another thing why we need to keep them dry is because if we're bringing bottle beers and they have labels, the labels may detach or may be damaged. And if they are damaged or detached, you cannot sell it as original. Let's talk about Pisco. This could have been whiskey or any other type of high volume of alcohol. This, it goes under ventilation of 6 changes per hour. And this is the temperature range. Okay? So in this case, we don't need a reefer. We're going to talk about that later. We don't need a reefer. We need other type of container. For the beer, we do. And ventilation, this is indicating what type of container we need. So what happens here? These are not suffering the same lasting time as the beer. The beer has a restricted period of time, not this type of alcohol because of the alcohol content. And in the case of beer, if it goes above the temperature range, the bacteria start multiplying. It doesn't happen with this type of drinks. Fire hazard, of course, that's got to be marked. Then these are the markings that you're going to be handling in the container. Fire hazard in the case of high volume of alcohol, not for the beer, but yes, for the other alcoholic drinks. If the merchandise is going to be packaged, right, whether it is in kegs, barrels, bottles, cans, it's general cargo, even though it's liquid. We're only going to put it liquid when it goes in tank container. But if it's going to have some kind of packaging, it always goes with general cargo. These are other bags, other types of containers for liquids. Remember that you as an international business engineer, you're going to be fitting in any type of business. These are usually used for medicine. Okay, these are different types of fluids that go in this type of boxes. This you already know, we all know, we're very familiar with these types of boxes. First container, and these are the drums, oils, right, syrups, and different types of things in drums. Drums again, fastening tape for the drums, plastic wrapping, as you can see, and fastening tapes on pallets. Again, foiled wrapping, more money, of course. That depends on the type of container. And these are bundles. Bundles go in a lot of the merchandise in bundles, in groups. Okay, so you have different types of bundles. I put different pictures so you can picture them in your mind that it's not only for example, this may be clothes or cotton, and this is grass, or this may be anything that is going in bundles. If this is going to be sent by the exporter in this condition and is not a full container of them, then is the exporter that has to produce the weight certificate and the packing list. In the pallets, we have three types of pallets. We have the aluminum pallets, plastic, and wooden pallets. Again, because the wooden pallets are made of wood, you need phytosanitary certificate for them. So that's something you also have to consider. Very cheap, expensive, more expensive. Aluminum pallets are only used for airplanes. They're never used for trucks or for vessels. This, you can use them anywhere, and this also anywhere. And let's go to containers now. We have different types of containers. The size of a container and the type of container is important to understand that they have different prices. And remember that for the credit, the bank also needs to know how the merchandise is going to be packaged and how much money is going to be involved in the packaging and the container. So we have the corrugated steel container. When we talk about the material, this is very popular. So it's low material cost. These are cheap. They're easy to repair because they can take one part, weld it, and replace that part. High tear weight is the only type of container that resists the heaviest cargo. Susceptible to corrosion, yes, because it's made of metal. And it's difficult to clean because it's corrugated. So you can see it has a lot of pleats. Now, why do we need to care if it is easy or not easy to clean? Because you may put your merchandise in when you rent the container. You put your merchandise, and if the container is not clean and it's inspected, the container is going to be held in quarantine. Okay, so that's why whenever you need, and if you get the chance to rent a container, you have to be very thorough in the cleaning part. Aluminum sheet containers, high material cost, they're more expensive, low tear weight, they don't resist heavy cargo, and easily deform because it's a very not strong type of material. These are used for airplanes, okay? Aluminum containers are not used for vessels. They are used for containers. They're always small. Then we have the plywood with glass fiber reinforced plastic. It's a cover of plastic over wood. That's what it is. They're easy to clean, see? Moderate material costs. They're not cheap, but they're not the most expensive either. Moderate tear weight. They don't resist very heavy cargo. So that's why the transportation company has to issue the weight certificate, because they have to know how much weight they're carrying. They're easy to repair because you can take one of the sheets out and put another one. They're strong as a material, huh? Resilient. You can reuse them again. These are the container sizes, from very small, that the one you saw as the aluminum container, to the very, very big size container. So we, in the port, they usually call them footers, huh? They don't say 10-foot containers. They say 10-footer, 20-footer, 40-footer. And from that on, those are high cubes. Those are high cubes. Again, sizes, high cubes. What are the elements we need to know about the containers? We have the forklift pockets. Those are the forklift pockets, and they're only available for 20-foot long containers, the 20-footers, not for the high cubes, okay? Because of the stability of the forklift truck or the forklift crane. They carry this container, but they have to lift it. So they cannot lift those very, very long containers, otherwise they go sideways. The gooseneck tunnel, these are the cavity that exists in the high cubes container, is that cavity, and that is used when the container is placed on the truck. If you can see the wheel, on the truck. Why is that? Because of the stability of the container on the road, not on the vessel, but on the road. And the grabber pockets, this is for high cube. If you notice, the high cube containers are held by the cranes. These trucks are cranes, so they can lift the containers from the top. If you notice, the pockets are on the top of the high cubes, and on the 20-foot long containers, the pockets are in the bottom. Again, is related to stability. Then we have the inlets. Inlets are very, very big bags, right, that are inside the container. If you look at the guy there, he's inside the container. These bags are there. When are the inlets used? When you're transporting bundles. You remember bundles, right? The bundles, not the boxes, not the bins, the bundles, when you have a lot of them. Why are they used? So when they open the container, they don't come on top of the people who are picking up the merchandise. Those are called inlets. Then we have the hooks. Hooks, those are the hooks, and these are the ones that it refers to the containers. They're hanging there inside the container, and those are to transport meat. So they can hang the entire animal, so the entire animal is not packaged individually. They are simply held on those hooks and pushed inside. The rails, this is for fashion. For expensive designer clothes, they come in rails. For clothes that is not expensive, they usually come in boxes or in bundles. You probably notice in the department stores, sometimes when you see coats or jackets, they're all wrinkled. It's because they didn't come like this. They came in bundles or in boxes. But when the clothes are expensive, they come in rails. So they put in the rail and push the merchandise to the container so they don't wrinkle. Lashing rings are the rings inside the container to keep the cargo steady so they don't go bouncing and crashing against the walls of the container. So like you see here in the car, so the car, even with the movement of the vessel in the ocean, it's not going to crush against the walls of the container. It's because it has lashing rings, so you can pull strings around and hold them, or chains. Here we go with the tank containers. These are standard containers, and there is a particularity about these standard containers. This one can be used for all types of transportation, even vessel, but the size, I'm sorry, even plane, but the size of the tank container that go in plane are smaller. They're very small. What is the difference? When it's fire hazard, when the liquid that it's transporting is fire hazard, then the outlet that allows, guys, please put your microphones. The liquid that is coming out of the container is from the top. That is when fire hazard, okay? When it's corrosives, acids, and that sort of merchandise. When it's merchandise like oils, for example, could be syrups, milk, even the outlet, the faucet to let the liquid out is in the bottom. That is the difference. And then we have the Bliss Boss, very similar to the Bliss Box, right? The boxes, but this is the Bliss Boss. Bliss Boss is a tank container that is only used for road transportation. Okay, any type of liquid, but only road. If you notice, you cannot take this container out. It's part of the truck. And this is the type of container for radioactive liquids. It's all sealed. Okay, obviously transported by vessel. And many times under temperature control also. Okay, reefers. We have two types of reefers. And of course, they have different prices. For the reefer that has the engine, the motor, the engine included in the container is more expensive because you can send the type of merchandise here that has to be under temperature control 24/7. Okay, so even though the container is out of the vessel or is out of the truck, the temperature is constant because the engine is included. That's why it's called integral unit. The other type of container that has to be connected to the vessel or has to be connected to the truck in order to generate the temperature control is called the porthole container. It's a little cheaper than the integral unit. When do you need one or the other? It's not because you like one or the other. It's because it depends on the needs of the merchandise. If we're going to be sending, for example, butter, we need 24/7 temperature. So we're going to be using an integral unit. But if you're going to be sending sherries, for example, sherries can stay for a while without the temperature and then go back to the temperature. So in those cases, you would prefer a porthole container. So when the temperature has to be constant 24/7, you have to bet for integral units. This is the ventilated container. If you remember when we were talking about the alcoholic drinks, that they need ventilation six times in an hour. So every 10 minutes, they need to be ventilated. These, as you can see here, these are the ventilators. So they avoid condensation of humidity inside the container. Okay. Now the container floors, this, I think, oh, before I go that, all the container floors have wood. So you're always going to need phytosanitary certificate for the floor of the container. So after you clean the container, you have to get it inspected. The floor of the container doesn't have insects. And here we have the flat racks. When do we need flat racks? When the merchandise is oversized, okay? When they don't fit inside a container, so you need a flat rack. And if you notice, the flat racks has both endings on both cases, because the other one This is the platform. It's only the floor. Okay, it's also used for oversized type of merchandise. Look at the size of that tank container there. Bulk container. When do we need bulk container? When we are sending, for example, we're sending flour, we're sending wheat, grains, and not packaged. We have them all bulk, tons of or tons of kilos there. They just pour it in the container. Okay, so those are bulk container, and those they don't need temperature control. As I was telling you before, all the floors of the containers, they have wooden floors. Okay, so they need phytosanitary certificate. And there you have it, guys. Now, you have to, when in the moment of the deal, all these aspects have to be considered. And again, because everything involves money and everything involves a cost. So depending on the budget, if you have a low budget, you cannot bid for expensive type of packaging. You have to go for the cheapest thing. So that's one of the things you have to pay attention on when you get the exercise for test number 3. If I say that you're sending such merchandise to such place under a very tight budget means you have little money to spend on that budget, on that packaging. Okay, do you have any questions? Questions?
No, Miss.
Great, you know already. Whatever questions before the test, we have the test on Tuesday. So whatever questions you may have, just ask me, okay? And if you need to meet with me anytime, sure, anytime after 7 p.m. If you need to meet me and have questions so I can clarify whatever questions you may have, okay?
Miss, the times of the groups are already sent.
Did I send it? I think I sent it to the other groups. Did I send it to you? Hold on a sec. Let me see if I have it, because
I
I
don't
do.
think so.
You didn't receive it? Hold on. Let me get rid of this. Just give me 1 second, because I have it ready. So I'm going to send you then the email. I know I have it. Show me the money. There it is. Right away. It's coming. There you go. I have it. So here I need to stop, because I remember I have 3 groups, so I explain the same thing in every group. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. These are the times. Those are the dates. 3 questions, and the questions may be about concepts or procedures. So if I ask you, for example, when would you request a green clause letter of credit? Okay, that's part of procedure. And you have to understand, that's also concept, what is a green clause letter of credit in order for you to answer. So those are the rubrics for questions 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to put it on the email, okay? These are similar to the one before, but for the procedure, I have this other rubric. So is based on the mistakes or omissions you may be making. So that has, the procedure has 8 points and the others 4 points. And there's the rubric for both of them. So this is the time, guys. Here's where you are. As soon as we finish, I'm going to send it to your email. All right?
Okay, Miss.
Okay. So remember, I consider 20 minutes between one and the other. So try to be in contact for those of you who are going to be in that day, just in case, because sometimes people take longer to answer. So just in case, you can be communicating among yourself. We're still waiting. We're still waiting. Okay? Be good, guys. Have a great weekend.
Bye, Miss. Take care.
You
Bye,
too, baby.
Miss.
Bye,
Take care.
Miss.
Bye,
Yes.
babies.
Bye,
See
Miss.
you.
Bye, Miss. Take care.
You too, baby.